I think another thing that threw people on the test a little bit is the idea that there's a price, we have a price demand equation, we also have price supply equations. And that makes sense because it kind of depends on whose perspective you're coming from. When we're talking about consumer, we're talking about price demand. So you can have a price demand equation, and sometimes it's written this way, D for demand. And so that basically tells you how much, how much a person is willing to pay, how much they'll buy based on a price, how much they're willing to demand based on the price. So let's think about this. So if the consumer is willing to pay $25, but for some reason the store is only charging $20, consumer gets a deal, right? They save $5. There's a surplus there. There's a win for them. And so so when the price is lower than what this says, because this is basically saying for this demand, this is what I'm willing to pay. When the price is lower than that, the consumer gets a deal. They get the surplus. We can draw that picture. So if we have, for example, let me just draw a general one. All right. So if we were to draw these, and this is P on this axis and X here. So remember, X is always the number of items. P will be our price. And in this case, what do we know? We know that as price increases, what happens to demand? It goes down. So let's just say it looks like that. Let's just, whatever it is. Okay, so this is our demand curve, our price demand curve. But let's say that instead we set the price here for some reason. We'll call it P bar. If you set the price there, then all these people in here who are willing to pay this price are really only paying that price. That's a good deal for them, right? So this part right here is called the consumer surplus. It's the amount of money that the consumer is not paying. And it's related exactly to that area under the curve. So this part right here is the consumer surplus. So how do we get at that area? How do we find this area?
Pythagorean theorem?
It's not necessarily a triangle, but so how would we be defining area in calculus? Yeah, the area between the curves. So we need to know a top and a bottom. So which one's the top? Demand. So we're going to look for the demand minus, and this right here is just a horizontal line, right? Horizontal line at whatever that P price is. So this is the upper curve minus the lower. So how far do we go? That is not really specified, is it? I've specified the price, but I need to know this point. How do I find that point?
It's usually where the supply curve is.
Well, it's right on the curve, isn't it? So if I know the price, I just put the price in here and solve for X. This point is on the curve. I know what that point is. If I know P, I know X and vice versa. So I'm going to integrate from 0 to X bar. You're going to have to compute that. So you may not be given it, but you'll have enough information to get it. And we just get it by plugging into this equation. You know what the price is. That was another problem people had on the test. Price is 8 when demand is 45, or supply is 45. People got that backwards. So if price is 8, that means P is 8. Supply is 45 means X is 45. People reverse those. That was a pretty common mistake. Okay, so let's do an actual problem. Let's look at number 56 on page 402. Number 56. It says, find the consumer surplus at a price level of $120 for the following price demand equation. Okay, so this is page 402, number 56. So find the consumer surplus. So we're trying to find that, because I recommend writing your instructions. What are you trying to do? You're trying to find that. At the price level, so what do you know? You know the price level is 120, and they gave you that for a price demand equation. Does this make sense for price demand? As demand goes up, price is going to go down, so it makes sense, it's a negative slope. So if I want to find the consumer surplus, what I'm really going to do is graph that. Yes, you're going to graph that. We're going to graph. So how does this curve, what kind of curve is this? Straight line, thank you. Which goes through 200 and then decreases. Do I care exactly how that decreases? Am I going to be all that worried about what that shape looks like? I just need a negative slope, so good. Because I can mess with this axis over here to make that slope, whatever. I mean, this isn't perfect. So this, but I do need this piece. Goes through 200. And I do need this piece. How do I graph P equals 120? If this is your P axis and this is your X axis, P equals 120 is a horizontal line. So right here. And we know that we don't actually have it out here where it's negative. So consumer surplus right there in the middle. Okay, so there's an area between the curves. In this case, it is a triangle, so we could use geometry, but let's not. Let's just go ahead and let's go ahead and do it the calculus way, set up the calculus. So I know that I'm going to integrate. Which one's my top curve? 200. Yeah, this one, the 200 minus 0.02x minus my bottom curve, 120. I'm going from 0, I know that. I don't have that point yet. I don't have the end point. Can I find it?
Yes.
Yes, I know the price is 120, so I know P is 120. So I'm just going to say 120 equals the rest of the equation. And then solve for x. That's another thing some people are having trouble solving when you have rational expressions. So I may try and write out some solutions for that. Right? So here, I'm thinking in my head 0.02x on this side, 120 on that side, just because I get everything positive that way. 4,000? Does that seem right? Multiplied by 50, 50. I think that's right. So 4,000. I think that's right. So what do I think about this equation? Basic or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, basic. First, I would like to combine these two. You should collect like terms always. So 0 to 4,000, 80 minus 0.02x dx. Really easy integral. All of these applications in section 6.2, the integral part is typically the easy part. The probability one, sometimes you get power functions, but generally there's not anything horribly complicated about these ones. So do you want to finish this one, or can we, yes, finish? All right, so antiderivative of 80 is 80x. Antiderivative of 0.02x, x squared, 0.02 times the half, so 0.02 divided by 2, I'm getting 0.01. Again, this one is particularly easy because it's all polynomial, so when I plug in 0, I know that that's only true for polynomials. Remember, if you plug in 0 for lins, any lin expressions, or any exponential expressions, you won't necessarily get 0, so just remember that. So here we just have 80 times 4,000 minus 0.01, 4,000 squared. I'd be happy for somebody to do that, because I did that in my head this morning. I'll try 30. 20,000. We're going to do this. So 4,000. I get 80 from this one, minus 0.0, minus 40, 42. I get 160,000? Yes?
Yes.
Woo! Go me. Okay. So again, this is fairly easy. Okay, so this is consumer surplus. We also have producer surplus. It's going to have a different curve, right? So we know that price demand has a negative slope. Producer, think about producers though. If you're gonna get less money, are you gonna make more of it? No. If you're gonna make more money, are you gonna make more of it? Yes. So as the price that you can sell it for goes up, you're gonna make more and more because you want. If you can get a better price for it, you're gonna make more of it. So let's look at that one. So let's see. I'm gonna keep this one up. Can I erase this part yet? Okay, so now we're going to look at producer surplus. It has a price-supply equation. It's still price, and it's still number of items. So we're still going to say P equals, but now instead of D of X, what should we call it?
There's the X.
S of X, S for supply, yes. So S of X, and whatever that is equals to. This one we knew has a negative slope. That makes sense. This one has an increasing slope always. So this one is going to look more like this. Right? The more I make, I mean, the higher the price, the more I'm going to make. That makes sense. I'm going to make money. So let's think about this. If I set some arbitrary price, and a producer is willing to make it for less, but you're going to pay them more, who wins? The producer's willing to make it for less, but you're going to pay them more.
The producer.
The producer wins. So this right here is your producer surplus. How do I find that area? Exact same way I did this one, right? So here, producer surplus. And so you can memorize formulas. I don't do that. I just graph it and go, what's the area between the curves? So I go with the upper curve, P, minus the lower curve, that's this one here, supply curve. You always go from 0 to, do I have this point X? No. You have to compute that one. So whatever that value is, a lot of times we'll call it X bar. This one you're going to have to compute. Okay? So let's look at page 402, number 60. And it's interesting, in the book it says find it first and then sketch it. I sketch it first and then find, so the problems come in pairs. So you'll end up doing some here in just a minute that look like they come in pairs, but really to me they're the same problem. So this one says, number 60, find the producer surplus. So again, what are we trying to find? Find producer surplus, and what do we know? We know P bar, the price we've set, is 55, and we know that the supply equation is the following. 15 plus 0.1x plus 0.003 x squared. So let's think about this. Does this make sense for a supply equation? What kind of shape is this? Parabola, and it's opening up. So yes, so that makes sense. It should have a positive slope. So if we draw this, where does it go through the x-axis, the y-axis? Yes, it's wherever you put in x equals 0, so 15, so put a 15 here, that's really the only point, that's the important piece, 15, and then just go, you can even make that noise if you want to. All right, and you can see why I need to know where the 15 is, because I also have to graph my other curve. So P equals 55, that's a horizontal line, so right here, 55. And the area in the middle is your producer surplus. So I know that my producer surplus, I'm going to integrate the top curve. Which one's the top curve now?
The
55.
The horizontal line. Again, you can draw an arrow down from top to bottom if that helps you. So we're going to start with 55, and we're going to subtract this whole thing. Please use parentheses until you have adjusted all your negative signs. So 15 plus 0.1x 0.003 x squared all of that, from 0 to,
Oh, no.
we don't know yet. Can we figure it out? Yes, it's going to be a little uglier this time. So we need to figure out this one. So let's come over here. Where do I have space? Okay, so where is this? So how do I find that? I want to know where this is equal to 55. So I need to say 55 equals 15 plus 0.1x, that whole thing. What kind of an equation is that? Yeah, it's polynomial quadratic. So if it were factorable, we would factor it. Do you guys want to factor it? Yeah, I don't think so. What's the first thing we have to do, though?
To bring the 55.
Yeah, we have to get 0 on one side. Okay, so we're going to start here. I tend to put things on the left. I'm just flipping sides. So if I were to subtract 55 from both sides, I would get minus 40. So if I don't want to factor it, what do you want to do? Quadratic form. So it's a little bit of a pain, but not horrible. Do we want to do that? Or do you want, because I would like for you guys to have some time to do it on your own. So I don't think I wrote down a solution. So here you need to find this value. So you're going to get an x equals, and probably one of the values, because this is negative, what does that tell you? If you could factor it, you'd have x plus something and x minus something. So you're going to get one negative answer and one positive answer. Two answers. You don't want to use them both. Which one do you want to use?
Positive.
Positive one. Okay? So we just know because this is negative, we're going to get one positive and one negative root. We just don't want the negative one. So this value here, this x bar goes up here. Is this a basic?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all powers. So group up your like terms, and then it's just powers. And so for those of you who are going to finish that one and want to know, the answer is $2,500. I think the x bar comes out really clean. I think this comes out to be a whole number. Okay, so what I would like for you guys to do now is I have the problems that I would have assigned for homework due on Monday, I'm going to have us do right now, so that way you don't have anything due Monday. That's my preference. So let me tell you which ones to do.